Imagine waking up one day to find that your guaranteed retirement plan, the one your parents and grandparents counted on, was gone. In its place, a personal investment account tied to the unpredictable swings of the stock market. No roadmap, no guarantees. Just you, your paycheck, and Wall Street. This might sound like a bad dream, but for millions of Americans, it became reality. This massive shift didn't happen overnight, but it happened fast enough to completely reshape the financial future of an entire generation. And it all started with a small, seemingly harmless tax provision called the 401k. Back in the day, the 401k wasn't meant to be a retirement game changer. It was just a little loophole in the tax code. But corporations quickly saw an opportunity. They realized they could ditch their expensive lifelong pension promises and shift the responsibility and the risk on to their employees. And just like that, a new era began. Instead of your employer guaranteeing you a steady income for life after you retired, you were now in charge of building your own nest egg. You had to manage your own investments, navigate market volatility, and hope for the best. This single change didn't just alter retirement, it fundamentally rewired how wealth is built in America. So, how does a 401k even work? It's pretty simple on the surface. You tell your employer to take a piece of your paycheck and put it directly into an investment account. Often, your employer will even chip in some extra money, which we call a match. From there, your money is invested in the market, and whatever gains or losses it makes determine what you end up with. On one hand, this system rewards long-term thinking, steady employment, and access to those sweet employer matchas. If you can consistently contribute over decades, you can build a serious amount of wealth. But on the other hand, it punishes job instability, low wages, and financial stress. If you can't afford to save, or if you're bouncing between jobs, the 401k system can leave you far behind. For decades, pensions were the great equalizer. They didn't care if the stock market was up or down. They didn't care if you were a financial genius or didn't know the first thing about investing. If you put in your years at a company, you earned a guaranteed retirement income. It was a promise. With 401ks, that promise vanished. Suddenly, everything changed. People with higher incomes could afford to save more, giving them a huge head start. Those with financial literacy made smarter investment choices, amplifying their gains. Workers lucky enough to have an employer match effectively doubled their advantage. Meanwhile, those with unstable jobs, multiple career changes, or lower wages struggled to contribute at all. The result was a massive, widening gap. A chasm opened up between those who could consistently build their nest egg and those who were left scrambling. But the challenges didn't stop there. A huge problem was that many workers just didn't sign up for their 401k plans, even when they were available. Others made a critical mistake. When they switched jobs, they cashed out their accounts instead of rolling them over, taking a huge tax hit and wiping out years of savings. Then there were the silent wealth killers, high fees. Many plans were loaded with administrative costs that quietly ate away at investment returns over time, costing people tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars by the time they retired. And perhaps the biggest trap of all was human psychology. When the market inevitably dipped, fear would take over. People would panic and sell their investments at the worst possible time, locking in permanent losses. These individual decisions, repeated by millions of households across the country, created a retirement system where your behavior mattered just as much as your income, and often, it worked against the people who were already struggling the most. But the story of the 401k isn't all bad news. Over the years, we've learned a lot about what actually works. Smart companies started implementing features that made a huge difference. One of the biggest breakthroughs was automatic enrollment. Instead of making employees actively choose to sign up, companies started automatically enrolling them in the 401k plan. People could still opt out, but most didn't. This simple change pulled millions of new savers into the system. Employer machos also proved to be incredibly powerful. The promise of free money was a massive incentive that dramatically boosted long-term balances. And to solve the investment confusion, we got target date funds. These funds automatically adjust your investments based on your age, becoming more conservative as you get closer to retirement. It made investing simple and effective for people who didn't want to become stock market experts. When companies leaned into this smarter plan design, the outcomes for their employees improved dramatically. But when they didn't, the retirement gap just kept getting wider. Today, we see both sides of this story playing out everywhere. On one side, you have Americans who have built massive 401k balances. They rode the bull markets, made consistent contributions, and are now set for a comfortable retirement. But on the other side, millions of people have little to no retirement savings at all. This is especially true for workers who don't have access to an employer-sponsored plan. or those living paycheck to paycheck with nothing left over to save. This stark split reveals a core truth about modern America. The 401k didn't just change retirement plans, it changed who gets to build wealth in this country. To really understand the impact, picture two different workers. Let's call them Sarah and Mike. Sarah has a stable job with a good company, a solid income, and a generous employer match on her 401k. She sets up her contributions once and then mostly forgets about it. For decades, her account quietly compounds, growing bigger and bigger, eventually becoming a major source of wealth for her and her family. Now, let's look at Mike. Mike works in the gig economy. His hours are inconsistent, his income fluctuates, and he has no access to an employer retirement plan. He tries to save when he can, but unexpected bills always seem to pop up. For him, the dream of a comfortable retirement feels less like a plan and more like a lottery ticket. These two stories aren't about personal failure. Sarah isn't necessarily a better person or a harder worker than Mike. They are the predictable results of a system designed with uneven access and uneven rewards. So, what can be done? The good news is, there are strategies that could help rebalance the system. We could expand automatic enrollment to cover more workers. We could create universal retirement plans that aren't tied to a specific employer, making them accessible to gig workers and small business employees. We could also boost savings incentives for lower-income workers and continue to simplify investment choices to protect people from making costly mistakes. Some states and a growing number of employers are already starting to move in this direction, but the scale of this challenge is national, and the consequences of inaction will affect generations to come. For you, as an individual, the lessons are clear. If your employer offers a match, contribute enough to get every single penny of that free money. It's the best return on investment you will ever get. Avoid the temptation to cash out your 401k when you change jobs. Always roll it over. Pay close attention to fees and choose low-cost investment options. And most importantly, think long-term. Don't panic during market downturns. Your small decisions, compounded over time, can lead to huge outcomes. But that's only true if the system gives you a real chance to participate in the first place. In the end, the 401k is a tool, not a perfect solution. It created millions of new investors and opened the door to wealth building for people who never had that opportunity before. But it also left many behind and helped create a new, modern wealth divide. Whether the 401k ultimately becomes a path to broader retirement security for everyone, or continues to be a system that favors the fortunate, depends entirely on the choices that employers, policymakers, and all of us make next. The story of the 401k teaches us a powerful lesson. Sometimes, the smallest policy changes can reshape an entire nation's financial future, often in ways that no one ever intended. Thanks for watching. If you found this interesting, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the systems that shape our world.